Invertebrates. Now, the invertebrates are quite an interesting group. They run from simple organisms all the way up to organisms that we wouldn't consider so simple, such as the arthropods, which are filled with all kinds of critters, from bugs to lobsters to everything else. Now, the big thing to understand about the invertebrates is they basically don't have a backbone. That's where the word invertebrate comes in. Invertebrate, no backbone. Now, when you start thinking about the invertebrates, you start with the simplest ones. Now, the simplest ones would be the sponges. Now, one thing to understand about sponges is they have what's called radial symmetry. If you think about radial symmetry in terms of how it's organized, their body part is like a cylinder, and so you could arrange those body parts all around one central axis. It doesn't matter how you slice it in half, you get the same two parts. Now, sponges are often mistaken for plants because they're sessile, they don't move, and they basically are rooted in place, but they are filter feeders. And the bottom line is they can't make their own food. They're heterotrophs, and therefore they fit this category. Start to get to the hydra. In their hydra, jellyfish, sea anemones, they all belong to the Cnidarian family. Now, again, one thing that sets them apart is they have several different layers. An outside layer, the ectoderm, and the inside layer, the endoderm. And so they've begun the process of beginning to specialize. And again, these organisms come in a variety of different types of shapes and sizes. Their morphology is quite unique. Now, again, most of us are familiar with the jellyfish, but some of the others that you should be familiar with are corals, perhaps you've seen, sea anemones. Some of the others that you may come across are things like flukes if you go snorkeling and such. Take a break now and look at some of these videos that I posted for you. If we get a little bit more complex, we get into what's known as the platyhelminths, or the flatworms. Now, most of you guys are familiar with these because those are your parasites, such as the tapeworms. Again, take a break here, okay, and take a peek at these neat videos that I tracked down that show a little bit about tapeworms in a perspective you may not have ever seen before. If we get a little bit more complex, then we get up to what's known as the annelids. Now, these are your roundworms. Again, what makes them more complex is that they have a third layer, the mesoderm, and the beginnings of internal organs, okay, as they've developed this coelom. Again, take a peek at this video that I've put together for you. If we continue to increase in complexity, we get to the mollusca group. Now, the mollusca group, they are things like your, octopus, your snails, your scallops, your clams, squids. I mean, these make some really cool, again, organisms. Biggest thing they have in common is they've got that outer shell, even though people don't think the octopus does. It's actually got a shell, it's just kind of underneath its skin. Again, I've checked out or found a few videos for you to watch, so check these out before you continue. Anyway, we get next to the Arthropoda. Now, the Arthropoda are the largest group of invertebrates. They get their name from the word arthropod means jointed legs. They get their name from the fact that they've got this exoskeleton, a skeleton on the outside. Again, when we start looking at the arthropods, we've got your insects, we've got your butterflies, we've got your spiders, we've got your scorpions, or your, we've got your lobsters and crustaceans, all kinds of different organisms. These guys make up the biggest group going of all the invertebrates, okay, and probably of all the animal kingdom. And then we get to the last group, the echinoderms, okay. Now these guys are interesting because they actually have an endoskeleton. They're the only groups of invertebrates that have an endoskeleton. Okay, but other than that, they meet the criteria of being an invertebrate. Now, these guys are the sea cucumber, the sea urchin, probably most famously the sea star. And that basically covers the invertebrate grouping, giving you some idea of the diversity, the variety that exists there.